I think that the wall of separation of church and state is definitely becoming eroded by the current politics. Those in elected offices are feeling more emboldened based off of who our president is. The courts matter because they are the arbiters of our rights. They are the ones that are tasked ultimately with defending the Constitution in their capacity as judges. And so what we're seeing in this Trump era are judges that have been appointed by his administration, by him, and they are bending over backwards to see to it that the separation of church and state is not being upheld. They are taking advantage of this time. They know that they do have this majority. They know that the courts are stacked in their favor. They know that politicians are stacked in their favor, and I think that it's working very effectively for the religious right at this moment in time. Project Blitz is this effort to bring religion into the public sphere, to bring it back, prayer back into school. It is a very coordinated effort to erode separation of church and state. There are efforts to, make manuals to bring them into public schools, to use religious liberty, this idea of religious liberty as sort of a sword, to trample on other people's rights, LGBTQ rights, religious minorities, ethnic minorities. It is this idea that our religion trumps your rights, and they are doing that in sort of a lot of ways, but we're seeing it, I, being on the court side of it, I'm seeing more religious liberty arguments being made by our opponents when it's not true religious liberty. We should care in part because the wall of separation of church and state is sort of what makes America America. It is kind of the centerpiece of our democracy. There's a reason why it's in the First Amendment. It's the first part of the First Amendment that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Without that freedom of religion, without that freedom to believe or not believe, without that division with government and religion, we start to see the issues we see, in other countries where there's lack of separation of church and state. So it might be a minor issue in God We Trust in a classroom, but that's sort of the beginning of when that divide starts to kind of crumble down, because the next thing is going to be prayer in schools, and then students cannot choose their own religious faith because they're being influenced by teachers, peers, and so forth. And I think that's all kind of how it starts. Certainly what could be done is we elect the right people, and I think that elections obviously have consequences, and this past election has immense consequences. So I think there's something we all can do, which is vote responsibly and vote for leaders that care about church-state separation. I think that's sort of step one. I think the other thing to consider is that we have to look to our allies. There's a lot of Christians who are now starting to become outraged in the same way we used to feel outraged. And it's not just by, the Satanists showing up to do a prayer. They were outraged by the cross case. They were saying that we don't want the government to display our quintessential symbol and to try to define or reshape the meaning of our symbol. They saw some of these arguments as being sort of blasphemous. And so sort of a wake-up call, I think, to some Christians in this country, even conservative Christians, who are realizing what separation of church and state does for them to protect their faith too. Obviously, you can follow us on our Instagram page and our Facebook page, learn what we do. We always, very much appreciate donations to help support our programs. We couldn't do these lawsuits without the support of our donors, so that's obviously something that is, has a very direct, tangible effect for us. But there's also, just spreading the word about humanism, spreading the word about church-state separation, reporting violations when you see something, asking us if something is a violation. We can help educate the public when people come and ask us questions.